minutes. All right, almost everyone is here. And originally, our teaching assistant didn't have to come today, but he insisted on coming. Now that he's here, someone is waiting for him, so I'll let him introduce himself first. The biggest one here.
Hello, everyone. I am Huang Zijian. I was originally an undergraduate in the 2019 class of the weapons program, and now I am a graduate student under Professor Song Lei. This semester, I am the teaching assistant for the Principles of Flight course, helping everyone with their studies. I will also be coordinating with everyone. The QR code for the WeChat group is in the online PPT, so you can scan it to add yourself. I should be the second person in the group, and if you have any questions later, you can add me on WeChat or send me an email, and I will do my best to help everyone. I'm off now. Bye-bye.
Great. I'm very pleased. This semester, I'm teaching you the course on the principles of flight. Many of us have probably met before, right? I've previously covered a round with you covering the principles of flight, so we should all be quite familiar with this course, right? What kind of course this is? So today, first of all, I want to lay a basic foundation for everyone through these three aspects. First, let's talk about the basic situation of our course, the principles of flight. We should all have seen from the training program that this course is 1 credit during our study at Beihang University, with a maximum of 4 credits and a duration of up to 64 class hours. Right? Moreover, this year marks the 4th round of teaching the principles of flight, and I am well aware of everyone's mindset towards this course. It's a love-hate relationship. Love? It's because, after all, we will all be pilots in the future. This course is probably the one that is most closely related to our specialization among all the courses, right? Moreover, each of us has a dream of flying, and we all hope to quickly realize this dream of ours. But what are we afraid of? Many seniors might say that this course is quite difficult, right? And then, some people might also say that the failure rate for this course is relatively high, and then perhaps some concepts might be a bit complex to understand. So today I want to first give the students a general introduction to what this course is really about. Our core course content revolves around 2 main themes: why airplanes fly and how airplanes fly. So, what specific disciplines are involved? In fact, it includes 3 disciplines: aerodynamics, flight mechanics, and aircraft piloting. Now, for students in our aircraft design major, aerodynamics and flight mechanics are 2 separate courses. Then, aircraft piloting is something that civil aviation pilots or military pilots specifically need to learn. We combine these 3 to form a course on the principles of flight. Clearly, the importance of this course is self-evident, as it provides the necessary theoretical support for mastering safe piloting techniques and achieving the optimal performance of an aircraft. So, this course is for everyone. This is a core professional foundational course. Regarding the past performance in this course, we can take a look. These are randomly selected grades from 2 previous classes. We can see that the average final score is generally between 70 and 80, which is the most common situation. Then, we also have students who perform exceptionally well, scoring above 90. This happens every year, and in some classes there might be even more students scoring above 90. So, this course isn't actually that difficult. If you listen carefully and think seriously, failing the course is a low probability event. Moreover, when you listen carefully and think seriously, you'll discover many interesting things. Some of these we can directly demonstrate and verify in flight simulations. Others, when you get on a real plane and fly, you'll find the process particularly enjoyable. Regarding our course, it has undergone continuous changes. Personally, I took over this course in the spring of 2020, which was the first season of the pandemic, and built it up from scratch with basically no reference materials available at the time. And then, in the same year, I directly uploaded the course videos online. Then, in the fall of 2021, during the second round of teaching this course, I reorganized the content and optimized and improved about 50% of the course material. After that, in the previous round of the course, in the fall of 2020, I made some minor adjustments, with the main change being the creation of a question bank for everyone, to facilitate everyone's post-class learning, which we will introduce in detail later. Additionally, the content of this course can be found on Bilibili, including the 2019 course, the spring 2020 semester course, and the fall 2021 semester course. We uploaded updates later on because there weren't significant changes and I didn't want to disperse the traffic too much. If you watch on Bilibili, you can directly search for principles of flight, and you will see that these two, the ones in blue, are basically at the top, right? So, the daily views exceed 100, and it's not just from our Beihang University students, but from outsiders as well. And this reflects the development of our Principles of Flight course. Additionally, I would like to mention more about our course. How did our course come about? Our course, in fact, mainly references the EASA system. Why? Because the EASA system, relatively speaking, actually has higher requirements than the FAA. Therefore, we discuss based on the EASA system and ultimately develop this course. Let's take a look at the position of the Principles of Flight course within the EASA system. Above are the exam contents for the private pilot license, which includes a total of 9 exams, one of which is Principles of Flight. Then, when it comes to the university stage for the airline transport pilot license, there are a total of 14 exams. Among them, the course with the code 080 is the Principles of Flight course, or PSEG. Therefore, when our course was first established in the spring of 2020, it primarily referenced the content from the EASA system, including a book for the private pilot license and another resource. A book for the airline transport pilot license. After this class, I will send you the electronic version of the textbook from this airline transport pilot license book. If you wish to review after class, you can consider using this book for revision. Of course, it is entirely in English, because all of your future exams will be conducted in English. Therefore, in our course, there will also be many instances where English is used. Next, let's talk about our course content. I want to discuss with you from several perspectives about how our course is structured. First, let's talk about the relationship between the course content and the textbook. As mentioned earlier, it is basically based on the syllabus, and then the textbook is used as the foundational framework. After that, it has undergone several rounds of revisions. The main focus is still on how to make it easier for everyone to understand. To facilitate understanding, many adjustments have been made. Currently, we have not published our own textbook. So when reviewing, you can refer to the Oxford CE book. Additionally, to make it easier for everyone to review, you can watch the videos online. And you can also review by following the PPT, as the PPT is designed for convenience. I have kept quite a lot of text in it. Then, based on the original syllabus, I have appropriately added some content, mainly focusing on practical aspects, and some advanced content. Why is that? Because abroad, the entire training system for our pilot licenses does not confer a degree, right? However, you are at Beihang University, which can be said to be the best aerospace university in the country. Moreover, in the soft science rankings, our aerospace engineering is even ranked first in the world, which is a bit exaggerated. So, Beihang University cannot be said to be at the level of an ordinary foreign aviation school. I believe this is not our goal in training people. We hope to train for each civil aviation pilot an expert type pilot who should have a sufficient theoretical foundation. Therefore, our course content is definitely based on the licensing system, but it is also somewhat higher than the licensing system. Later on, we will also provide some specific details to explain what higher means, and regarding the course study. What about the course study? I want to emphasize that one aspect is learning in the classroom, lab, and the other is self-study by reading books. What's the difference? How did I personally learn? Personally, I actually learned everything by reading books. I didn't attend classes to learn these things, because my major was aircraft design. So when I was studying for my license, I just studied on my own. Reading books is something done internally. So, what's different about sitting here compared to just doing practice questions? Generally speaking, during the process of reading, there are many things, but the specific content won't be derived for everyone. So, what specific derivations will we provide for everyone? What is the most basic situation like? What kind of results do we get in the next step? Ultimately, what should we be like? We will present this complete logical chain to everyone during the course. Then, there is also the fact that in the classroom, we will provide a lot of content that is not found in books to elevate and enhance your understanding. This is what makes attending classes different from self-study and doing exercises. As for our course, personally, I don't like to impose strict limitations on everyone. Therefore, our course is considered a language class, mainly to assign homework with and such, if you prefer to study on your own. Don't attend classes. I won't interfere too much. Anyway, if we have 2 grading methods at the end of the term, if you complete the classroom exercises, I can calculate the score for this part for you. If you feel that attending classes is not meaningful and a waste of time, and you prefer studying by reading books, you can opt out of this part of the score. I can transfer it all to your final exam. That's also possible. Everyone can make their own choice. Then, regarding the content of the class, 70% is closely tied to the license, meaning the syllabus content of the license, and the remaining 30% is aimed at a comprehensive enhancement of knowledge. As we mentioned earlier, our goal is to train expert pilots, so it's not just about rote learning, or only covering what is required for the license exam. Moreover, for every pilot, this profession has a particular characteristic, which is that it is a lifelong learning profession. You might have heard seniors or mentors say this, right? You have to keep learning and taking exams throughout your life. Therefore, for each of our current students, learning ability is very important. So we cannot just set the starting point too low in universities. Therefore, we must include some advanced content. Speaking of advanced content, we might worry whether the course will be too profound. However, there's no need to worry too much about this. Our main focus will definitely be on the licensing content. After all, our major is flight technology, not aircraft design, right? Therefore, we won't impose excessively high demands on you in terms of mathematics and physics. We will have some derivations, but in practice, they will not exceed, and basically will not exceed high school level content. There will be a very small amount of basic calculus knowledge in a few places. For the rest, as long as you have a high school level math foundation, it should be sufficient for our course content. So you don't need to worry too much about this part. Then, the content that our students are particularly concerned about is how the final assessment will be conducted. Here, I'll briefly explain that our final assessment is divided into 2 parts, each accounting for 50%. The regular performance accounts for 50%, and the final exam accounts for 50%. The regular performance includes 10% for class performance. Homework accounts for 30%, pre-class preparation for 5%, and learning from supplementary materials for 5%. As for the regular performance scores, they are all based on the language course materials and classroom platform to grade everyone. For the final exam, we will conduct it entirely in a closed book format. The entire final exam will consist of questions in Chinese, so you don't need to worry about English. However, most of our regular assignments are in English. The final exam content includes 50% multiple choice questions and 50% short answer questions. Among them, the multiple choice questions may more closely reference the content of the licensing exams and the requirements of the syllabus. The syllabi we refer to include those from ASA, the FAA, and some others, including domestic ones, which I will all take into account. Of course, all of these will be translated into Chinese for the exam questions, because this course itself is not assessing English proficiency. Then, there are some short answer questions. What do the short answer questions test? The focus of the short answer questions is on applying theory to practice. These are the key points I discuss in each lecture. Whether you understand these is crucial for your future safe flying, so I will select these as short answer questions for assessment. Based on previous exam situations, those who do well on the short answer questions perform exceptionally well, while those who do poorly tend to struggle significantly. Therefore, we want to emphasize the importance of the short answer questions. We hope that everyone will pay attention to the key parts where theory is applied to practice, as this section affects our future flight. Safety. So, the usual assignments are basically questions drawn from the license question bank, which means they are essentially at the license level. As for the final exam, we aim to test something different, not just simply pulling some stuff from the question bank, as that would be too basic. Therefore, the final exam represents the level that a graduate from Beihang University should achieve. Generally speaking, we will have about 30% of the questions at an advanced level, and we hope our students can answer them. Then, regarding the classroom exercises, we usually have 2 to 3 exercises per class, and students are required to answer them directly using their phones. Considering it's the first class, our students might not be very familiar with this. Therefore, the answers from this class will not be included in the final exam, or d'assister. So, for this class, you can relax a bit. These questions are definitely not difficult. They are all things we just covered. Why is that? The main reason is to remind everyone to pay attention during the lecture, because the course on flight principles covers a lot of content. But if you don't pay attention in the first few lectures, then after missing some content when you get to the later lectures, you might not be able to follow along. So, I hope to remind everyone to pay attention when you should, especially since you're already here, right? Otherwise, if you weren't going to pay attention, you might as well have stayed in your dorm and slept more comfortably, right? Okay, so the response time for each question is roughly 1 minute. During this process, I'm not trying to deduct points from you. Therefore, there aren't too many strict requirements, and it's okay for everyone to discuss with each other. This is the situation regarding the class. I've also considered some special circumstances, such as the possibility of encountering network issues during class, right? And sometimes some students might need to take leave for certain reasons. In such cases, we won't handle each situation individually, but will adopt a unified approach. We will handle it based on 80%, meaning if you want this part of the grade, you need to be aware that we will calculate it at the end of the semester. If you answer 80% of the questions correctly this semester, then in this case, it will be considered that you receive 100% of this part of the score. Do you understand this? It means you can miss part of the class due to disconnection or other commitments, as long as you achieve 80%. You will receive 100% of the grade. Did I explain it clearly? Okay, so this is about the class part. Now let's talk about the homework. I have personally put a lot of effort into the homework. Every question I assign is one I have done myself. And I have also removed questions from the question bank that I found to be incorrect or lacking in value. Therefore, I hope everyone takes the homework seriously. It serves as a supplementary role in mastering the knowledge. After each class, we will send out homework assignments through the online classroom platform, and you are required to submit them before the next class. As for the process of doing the homework, we do not limit the amount of time you can take to complete it. nor do we require you to complete it entirely independently. However, there are some aspects within the homework. We hope everyone pays attention to the deadlines. We will strictly enforce the deadlines using the system, so if you exceed the time limit, you will not be able to submit the homework. Therefore, we hope everyone can be mindful of this. Our homework accounts for 30% of the grade, which is very important. Why is that? Because through doing these exercises myself, I believe that if you complete the homework seriously, you should be able to grasp the knowledge from each lesson. Therefore, please consider the process of doing homework as the best method of review. Many times, students might feel that they understand everything in class, but when it comes to the exam, they find they can't do anything. Why is that? It's because they haven't practiced. The purpose of our homework is to provide practice for everyone. Similarly, the 30% is meant to encourage everyone to achieve a good grade in the final exam, not to deduct points from you. So, what is another aspect? Like why is that I personally think is a bit more considerate? Our homework can be done twice. After the first attempt, you will receive a grade upon submission. If you are not satisfied, you can do it a second time. That means you can do it twice, of course, for these two sets of questions. The knowledge points are the same, but the questions themselves are basically different. Because I put a lot of effort into summarizing the questions in the question bank according to the knowledge points. And I have aligned each question with the knowledge points. So, therefore, our question bank is now very well and conveniently aligned with the knowledge points. So each time, the order and specific questions for each person will be different. And the options will also vary. Therefore, please, be mindful when helping each other here. When helping others, make sure to help thoroughly. Don't just tell others you chose ABCD, as that's not useful. You must clearly explain to others the content of each question and why you chose it. Right? That's what true mutual assistance is. And then, there's also something very important, which is this. Last year, when we were doing this question, some of our classmates were very clever, but I should say that this cleverness wasn't used in the right place. What happened was our classmates. The first time, they were given 2 chances. The first time, my classmates did nothing and submitted directly to see the answers. Then, they formed several small groups, mutual assistance groups. Then, everyone worked together to piece the question together, and then they did it again. This was a good reminder for me, as it was my oversight, and the main responsibility lies with me. So, this semester, to fix this loophole, I changed the method. What is it? After everyone submits their assignments, they can only see their scores, not the answers. This way, if you got it right, you know how many points you scored, right? And if there are still issues, you can always try a second time. Then our classmates thought, well, I did complete it. And after finishing it twice, there are still issues, and I'm really eager to know where I went wrong. So I can't just not tell you the answer, right? Therefore, after the next class, the answers will automatically be unlocked for everyone, allowing you to see exactly where your problem lies. We unlock not only the answers, but also the translations of the questions. For some particularly difficult questions, I've even written explanations on why they are that way, to help everyone understand better. As mentioned, the main purpose of this homework is to help everyone grasp the key points and facilitate your final exam review. All right, this is the specific completion status of our homework. As for the specific scoring method, we calculate the final grade based on the percentage of correctly answered questions out of the total number of questions. So this accounts for 30% of the homework. I hope students can make good use of this part. This section of the assignment is quite challenging to complete. I'm saying that creating this question bank is quite difficult, and many of the universities we collaborate with are eager to obtain this set of questions from me. All right, then let's talk about supplementary materials. What are supplementary materials? Generally speaking, these are additional resources we provide before and after class. We hope everyone can use them for previewing and reviewing. This part accounts for 5% each, and not every lecture will have them, but some will. Why do we set up this segment? The main reason is that when we get to later topics, for example, when we discuss flight mechanics, sometimes it might involve some knowledge of aerodynamics learned earlier. We all come from a student background, and I came through this stage as well. So I understand that even if you study diligently earlier, you might forget later on. Therefore, to remind everyone, if the next lecture might use some previous knowledge, we will assign some relatively simple preparatory homework. This so-called preparation is actually a review of knowledge from a previous lecture that will be used to help everyone understand the class better. And what about the extended content? It's also an expansion of the content. Generally speaking, it is an extension of the course material. I hope everyone can understand what the ultimate purpose of discussing these things is. We still use the language classroom, and this is calculated at 100%. Why is that? Because in this part, everyone really needs to discuss with each other, and I don't mind at all. The most important thing is that I hope everyone, through this process, can grasp the relevant knowledge rather than studying just for the sake of grades, as that would be quite meaningless. So, with this, you need to pay attention to the time for answering questions. We will remind everyone when submissions are due after each release. Additionally, if it involves some learning, we will require you to first review specific learning content. Only after that can you answer the questions. We hope that you won't just simply ask others for an answer. So, this is about the situation regarding answering questions for pre-class preparation and review. There shouldn't be any issues with this part, right? Next, let's talk about study methods. So, for this course, we hope everyone will spend some time reviewing after class. Why? Because the amount of knowledge in this course is very dense, making it a course like this. So, you might feel like you understand just by listening in class, but if you don't review it once, you might find it a bit difficult to do the homework. Therefore, we suggest that everyone at least go through the PPT, which is entirely in Chinese, after class. If you have extra time and energy, it's also recommended to compare the content with your textbook for review to improve your personal English level. As for preparation, if you wish to prepare, you can directly go to my personal homepage to download the previous course materials, which you can use. Internship. However, I actually think that apart from the special cases where I require everyone to prepare in advance for Chinese language classes, our students don't necessarily have to prepare beforehand. I will try my best to ensure that when you listen each time, unless it involves previous content, you will be able to understand everything in class. So, preparation for this course itself is not particularly important. However, I would like to emphasize what kind of preparation we are talking about here. It's about preparing for future studies in non-native languages. Why is preparation for learning non-native languages more important than preparation for our classes? Does anyone know? When everyone flies up to the sky, basically their mind is in a daze. If you fly up without having prepared or rehearsed beforehand, you basically don't know what to do. And if you happen to encounter certain instructors, especially those in the country, if they give you a few slaps and add some scolding, you'll be in a completely dazed state. Understand, in this way, you lose any ability to fly. Therefore, you must rehearse before flying, so that you can support yourself in completing the subsequent flight tasks. This is going off topic, leading to our later learning content. Returning to our course, we still hope everyone has some learning methods. We hope everyone can have a certain amount of extensive reading, because the knowledge learned solely from classroom content is very limited. We need to use various resources to enhance our personal knowledge level, which is crucial for everyone when they enter the workforce in the future. Later, we will recommend some sources for additional knowledge. Additionally, practicing exercises is also very important. You may have heard from your seniors that, whether domestically or abroad, before the actual exam, everyone needs to practice a lot of questions. But practicing questions itself is not the goal. So, right? We still need to master the knowledge through the process of practicing questions. So I hope everyone can use our homework system, to supplement and practice this part of the function. Lastly, I also hope that our students can use flight simulation software or our flight simulation platform to practice and reinforce what was taught in class. Knowledge through practice. To deepen understanding, we have been trying to develop the content of this lab course, but it indeed requires a lot of cost and manpower. This semester, there might be a little content for everyone to engage with. To do on your own, I won't make it a mandatory requirement. We have a flight simulation classroom, which you should have already visited during the course. There will be some content that will require you to try it out on your own after class. While it's not mandatory, I hope everyone gives it a try because some knowledge might seem particularly profound or abstract and hard to understand before you try it. But once you get hands-on experience, you'll find, hey, this is really simple. Alright, so this is an introduction to some of our learning methods. Now let's take a look at some reading materials that I hope everyone can review on their own. First, there's another course that covers this topic, right? Additionally, there is a Chinese version available, which you can find online. These can all be purchased. There's also The Path of Clapping, which actually corresponds to AI and H, and these can also be referenced. However, to be honest, the FA systems textbooks are not very well compiled. What's the biggest issue with the FA textbooks? I can tell you. I've read them all. The biggest problem with the FA textbooks is that they only present the results without explaining the reasons. This is the biggest issue compared to the YASA system. But what is a masterpiece in the American system? It's this one. It's about naval aviation, the Aerodynamics Handbook. This book is exceptionally well written. Many of our textbooks actually reference a lot of content from it, so I hope students who have the capacity can take a look at this book. It's truly an excellent book beyond our textbooks. That's all for the recommended textbooks. Now let's move on to this exercise. In 1 minute, which of the following methods can help us master the principles of flight and achieve good final grades? Please answer within 1 minute. Don't be shy, handsome.
Can't we do our regular assignments twice? Yes, we take the highest score. For me, after doing it the first time, the second time is slower, and then even slower, but we'll definitely take your highest so you can get score. No hard feelings with anyone.
Alright then. Our classmates, I see there are 73 of us here. Oh, just a few seconds left. What should we choose for this? Okay, thank you. Select all, right? Well, all right then. I hope everyone can use these methods to improve their skills. Also, we say there are some online reference materials that are very important. For example, Bob Ness's website, which introduces a lot of content mainly related to navigation and flight techniques, is particularly good. It also has many videos and animations that are well done. I have referred to it while preparing lessons, and this is it. A question bank software, a website, which corresponds to the content of the private pilot license. It has questions and explanations. Then this Dotlets has question banks from many countries around the world. You can also use it for reference. And the last thing, which I think is the most important, is why use Bing instead of Baidu. Because Baidu, due to its limited Chinese resources, offers too little. In fact, for many of our aviation-related topics, you can directly find the answers by searching in English. I hope that before asking questions after class, if you encounter any issues, you should first search online. How should you find the answer? This is a very important skill, because when you eventually enter the workforce, you must have the ability to acquire knowledge on your own. Many times you won't get answers by asking others. So, how do you practice? You start practicing now. When answering your questions, I might not always give you the answer right away. If you ask me, I will often tell you to search online first, or ask you what you have searched for. Then, let's talk about some public accounts that have excellent content. First, there's Captain Chen Jiangguo, a senior pilot who provides timely discussions on many aviation-related news topics. And then, Yibuya Shen is Captain Ma Ji from Ruili Airlines. He frequently posts insightful essays on his public account discussing various issues encountered during flights, and his writing is particularly unique. Moreover, they also offer some online courses that are quite affordable, usually just a few dozen yuan per class. I always purchase their online courses, and I find them very inspiring. Additionally, in the aviation English section, there are often practical English recordings available for listening practice. Furthermore, there's pilot training, which is generally more about gossip and is quite interesting. Then there's the software engineering channel, which is about aircraft maintenance. If you're interested in learning more about aircraft maintenance and gaining more knowledge, you can check it out. Lastly, there's the 3 Series Pilot, which is a personal public account of an Airbus pilot. It often discusses flying techniques and related training content, which I have consistently followed this year. These public accounts are worth checking out for everyone. As we mentioned earlier about flight simulation, I personally believe that flight simulation is a crucial part of our learning process. Why? Because through flight simulation, we can gain a lot of intuitive understanding. Once you have this intuitive understanding, you can elevate it to a rational understanding through study. After achieving a rational understanding, you can further use flight simulation to conduct a secondary verification of our theoretical knowledge. This is a very interesting process. Are there any issues that the software does not recommend to everyone? For example, what is the best aspect of Microsoft Flight Simulator at the top? Its graphics are currently the best, and it also has a global AI-generated real-world map. Its map is the most realistic. And then there's DCS World. It's about air combat, and sometimes the process of civil aviation flight can be a bit boring. Indeed. Therefore, if you go through the combat process with some confrontation, it might stimulate you more. Fighting spirit and enthusiasm. So for a single aircraft we can play, and for the connection we can, well, defeat Thunder, right? We can play Antonov's games, which are quite well made. Then, P3D, at this time, the simulation flight software made by Lockheed Martin, is actually the Microsoft Flight Simulator. The original production team was bought by Lockheed Martin. The developed 3D is also a very good flight simulation software for it. In addition, it includes X-Plane. What is the advantage of X-Plane? The openness of X-Plane is quite good. You can directly export your flight data through flying in X-Plane, which is a feature that 3D does not have. In terms of graphics, X-Plane and the 3rd season are basically similar, which can be said to be the best, das Lat. Finally, there is an ancient game, which I played when I was in high school. What makes this game stand out is something that no current game can compare to. The entire process is presented in the form of tutorials. From takeoff to combat training and various flight maneuvers, it mainly targets military aircraft, pilots, teaching basic dogfighting techniques. Through this process, it can also help you understand the principles of flight. This is related software. And with the software, we need some equipment. Our classmates often ask what kind of equipment is needed for playing flight simulators. Generally speaking, there are these perspectives, right? When looking for lights and joysticks later, what are the basics at the entry level? Personally, I recommend not buying the small lights, as they are not very big. Instead, we can directly purchase an entry-level joystick. I recommend 2. One is the Logitech Extreme 3D Pro. Both are in the range of 500 to 600. Another one is the Pumasky G1 16000. Alright, both of these are quite good. Relatively speaking, this one uses Hall effect sensors, which are non-contact measurements, while this one relies entirely on potentiometers. In terms of lifespan, the Hall effect one lasts a bit longer. However, there's an issue with its Z-axis, which is used to simulate the rudder pedal axis. It's also a potentiometer, So, over time, it might wear out. Just keep this in mind, and if needed, you can choose accordingly. Next, I will introduce my personal background to everyone, because some of you haven't attended my previous lectures. My name is Song Lei, and I am from the School of Aeronautics and Astronautics, specifically the Department of Aeronautics, which is under the 5th Department. I am the deputy head of the department responsible for undergraduate teaching in the Department of Aeronautics. Additionally, I am currently an associate professor and a PhD supervisor. I hold a private pilot license from ESA, but I haven't flown for a long time, so it's currently in a suspended state. I would need to pass an exam to use it again. Additionally, I am a young editorial board member of Aviation Knowledge. Since childhood, I can say I've been a military enthusiast and a fervent fan of South Korea. Therefore, I really hope to share this part of my hobby with everyone through this course. My main research areas include the design and optimization of aircraft aerodynamics and stealth, as well as flight experiments, and another area is flight simulation and modeling. In relation to our course, many aspects are actually closely connected to scientific research. I've done various research-related work, all of which are closely linked with institutes. As you know, I have collaborations with several universities in the country. In terms of course teaching, the most important course for me is the Principles of Flight, to which I have devoted a great deal of passion. You can see that I've lost quite a bit of hair on the top and back of my head, and it's truly because of this course. I often stay up late, and I used to do it frequently for this course. Additionally, I am the main lecturer, covering various topics. There is an overall aircraft design course, and I participate in the execution of the Aeronautical Engineering Committee. I am responsible for the course, but I do not teach all of the content. Additionally, I am the advisor for the Beihang University Model Aircraft team. Below are my phone number, my email, and my personal homepage. On my personal homepage, there are PPTs for the course, which you can download if needed. Another resource is our online classroom. There is a platform that also stores the course PPTs, which everyone can directly use. These are some of the things I have worked on. My main research focus is on whether something is an aircraft or not. Similar to the VR technology in the United States, right? Or it's somewhat like the current B-21 in the United States. At the time we were working on this, the B-21 hadn't been announced yet. This is a rocket-boosted target drone, which is something our tech team worked on together. Additionally, I also work on some aircraft component systems, such as the general data systems for aircraft. The pitot tube, developed by our research group, is widely used domestically. For instance, the Test Flight Institute in our country uses our product exclusively for all their scaled validation aircraft since we introduced it. Additionally, what you see below is the landing gear. This is for the thrust vectoring validation aircraft. For that aircraft, during the scaled validation, its landing gear system and its general data system were developed by our research group. We hold many patents and have related applications. Personally, when I was learning to fly for a private pilot's license, I studied in the UK. It was at Cranfield University in the UK where I learned to fly. The main aircraft I flew was the C-28, and I also flew some others, including the Slingsby Firefly, which is a military primary trainer aircraft. I also flew the Cessna 152, mainly these types of aircraft. Then in China, I flew the Bats, Willis, which is a type of sport aircraft, as well as the Shanghai SA-60. So during the course, I am also very willing to share some of my personal insights from past flying experiences with everyone. Then, this is our course group. We hope our students can join it now, as we will post some notifications and such in our course group. Also, this is the contact information for our teaching assistant, Huang Zijian. We hope everyone can take note of it. If you have any questions, you can directly ask Huang Zijian, because many times I might not be able to respond to everyone's WeChat messages in time, as I am indeed quite busy with work, including research, teaching, and many administrative tasks related to our college. Therefore, I suggest that when you have questions, you prioritize asking Huang Zijian. Of course, if there are issues that cannot be resolved, you are welcome to ask me at any time. However, if you ask me, I must emphasize that you should not expect me to directly tell you whether the answer is A, B, or C. I will never do such a thing. My usual way of answering questions is to first ask you, what exactly do you know through this question? And then what I hope for is this kind of approach. To tell everyone step by step how to think in order to finally arrive at the final answer. This might take more time, but I believe this is the most useful for our logical thinking. I have the same requirement for Huang Zijian, which is not to directly provide the answer when solving problems, but to focus on the method of acquiring knowledge. I hope everyone can understand. All right, so that's the basic information now about our course. Do any of the students have any questions? All right, if there are no questions, let's move on to the second part of today's session. Before we delve into the specific knowledge for our pilots, we need to review some fundamental concepts. This part is not directly about the principles of flight itself, but it is particularly important. The first fundamental concept we want to revisit is actually something we learned in the Introduction to Aerospace course. That is the structure of the aircraft and its basic functions. Let's take a closer look now. Here I will use the P-28 aircraft from the flight simulator to introduce it to everyone, as this is the aircraft I am most familiar with. Now let's take a detailed look. First, we see this is the P-28. When this aircraft is placed on the runway, this is the situation, and then let's change the perspective. First, let's look at the aircraft. From the schematic diagram, the first component is the middle part. Thank you. The fuselage, right? Does anyone know what it's called in English? Very good. It's in English. Right. Our exercises later are all in English, so I hope students are familiar with these basic terms. Secondly, this one. GE, right? Besides calling it GE, do we have other names for it that everyone knows? Right? Right? We also have some very common terms. It's called main business and also primary business, right? In the civil aviation field, during aircraft maintenance, it's often referred to as main idea. Why? Because it's the largest component in all the memories, right? And another main idea is to distinguish it from the tail. So we call it main idea in English, corresponding to main wing. What is this part called? Ah, the green part? What is this green part called? This part. What is it called? This plane. Doesn't have money for a holiday, but this is what's called the nose section. What is the English word for it? Okay. This word is very important. You must remember it, because in many questions in our later courses, the front is particularly important for the aerodynamics of our aircraft. Let's see how to pronounce this word. Linux, right? The front section is sometimes abbreviated as Li, so the corresponding back section is the tail section, right? Let's look at the corresponding word. Everyone read it together. Well, all right. Right? Is it right? Now, okay. So this is some information we can get from the top view. These English words, we hope our students. Right? Still remember? All right, let's switch to another perspective. There's another very important component. What are these two components called? This covers the content, you know. Pay attention, right? What is it used for? It's used to control the aircraft's roll, right? And what is it called in English? AROL, abbreviated as AIL. It seems like many of our students didn't answer this correctly, intentionally or not. All right, let's take a break.